Hi everyone, and welcome to Talis Founder Spotlight Series. We're excited to have Christoph Rieche, founder, CEO of iwoca, with us today. We have been on the long journey with the company, so we're here to hear a bit about their progress over the past few years. It's great to have you with us today, Christoph. Could you please introduce yourself and tell what is iwoca and so how that journey over 10 years sort of transpires and what are exciting things you're working at the moment.
Thank you very much, Vasile, for having me. So yeah, our journey started nearly 10 years ago, and I think you joined some 8 years ago. So we've been together on a fairly long and exciting journey. The starting point of iwoca was really that we perceived a challenge that small businesses had when accessing financing. And we felt that through a better use of technology and data, we could be solving that challenge. And we've been doing so over the last 10 years. We have provided more than £1.5 billion in funding to more than 50,000 businesses, and have made a lot of progress over these years, and hopefully we'll continue to do so over the next few years.
No, thanks. Yeah, I remember quite vividly our first few meetings. I think this was summer 2012. I think you launched your first product in March. The first loan was issued in March that year. I think 5,500, something like this. And by the time we invested, the whole loan book was, I think sub 1 million, around 600K. And a small team, I think you and James, both sort of coming from investment banks, you from Goldman, James from Deutsche Bank. And now, sort of almost 10 years after sort of the journey you started with James, I think you over 50,000 customers, 1.5 billion probably of loans issued, my guess. I don't know exactly the number. I don't know, from 3 people to 300 team strong. It's been quite a journey. So I think from what we'd like maybe to discuss at this spotlight is that the COVID and the pandemic, we've seen lots of changes in our portfolio companies. So how the pandemic changed how iwoca is doing business now? And has anything fundamentally changed, or you guys just continuing as you've been doing the business? So it would be good to hear sort of from you.
It's been an absolutely insane year. The last 12 months have been testing us as a company. Of course, our customers, SMEs, have been really in the epicenter of this pandemic, and clearly also James and myself, and as leaders of the company. We Q2 last year, when the first lockdown hit, every small business was affected by it, and clearly we're looking for support from us, which we've provided by giving them all the help we could in understanding the fast changing environment around them and all of us. And then we got very quickly accredited to the government support scheme, and have been helping businesses over the last 9 months in accessing very vital financing through this program. We have about a 10% market share in the UK and CBILS, which has been really fantastic feeling to be able to provide that vital liquidity, but also kudos to the team to have been rolling out this new product for us in absolute record time and scaling it very, very quickly. And so it's been it's been all around when you ask me what changed fundamentally, to some extent everything changed, and to another extent nothing changed at all. We're there for small businesses, we help them access financing, and last year everything was just turned upside down, and we had to adapt very quickly to what was and still is a very challenging situation.
No, thank you. I think when we invested, I remember vividly, I think you were targeting sort of online, the retailers at the time, and then later added offline businesses. So I think iwoca has developed over this period of time, sort of utilizing, automating lending solutions, and using various machine learning models to automatically assess businesses based on the data taken from Zero, eBay, Amazon, Sage, Pay, or whatever you name it, bank accounts and offline platforms. And now you also integrated your credit APIs with Bank. There's lots of things happening, but and we've seen that you launched the new product, iwoca Pay. So what is the vision for iwoca if you look 5-10 years ahead? So so many things happening at the same time.
I think there are a few building blocks, as you've alluded to. One part that to a large extent we have solved, but still getting better and better, was just to make that experience that a small business goes through when applying for financing is as easy as possible. And the consumer experience is that it's 100% automated, and we wanted to make it the same for small businesses. And small businesses are just a more complex entity than an individual, and therefore there are lots more hurdles that are related to it, which we have to a large extent solved. And so we are able to make automated decisions and provide a fully self-serve experience to a vast majority of businesses that are coming to us when they're applying for finance. That's been a huge achievement and has been a massive investment in the infrastructure that we have built. SME lending at its core is really a hardcore infrastructure play. And I feel that with the investment that we've made over all of these years, we're leading on that front, and certainly in Europe. The other building block is something that we've been investing in quite a bit for the last 5 years, is how do businesses and where do they access financing? So in the past, you would go to a bank, and even further in the past, you go to your bank branch and you would ask for financing. So you have identified a need for finance, and then you'd be thinking about, how can I now get to financing? And your first thought would have been, I'll go to a bank. But I think that's not how SME lending will be in the future, and we've been investing in enabling financing through many different platforms over the last few years. And so our product vision is very much to bring finance to small businesses when and where they need it. And that's why through our embedded financing capabilities, we're now reaching 1.8 million businesses directly with integrations via third parties. And these third parties might be neobanks that would like to offer a digital experience to their customers. It might be bookkeeping software companies that have become a very important cockpit for businesses, or it might be directly at the transaction level where a small business is buying something and would like to have financing directly related to this transaction. And I think that is the future of SME finance. And I think the direct analogy is in the consumer space. People go to Vodafone to buy a phone, but once they have selected the phone, they're not going to Barclays to get a loan and then go back to the shop to buy the phone. I think more than 60% of all consumers would be entering a longer term contract and would get the device as part of their contract. They would be choosing the device and the amount of data that they would like to have. But it just goes a long way of saying how embedded finance in the consumer space has really enabled a lot of the growth that we have seen in smartphones over the last 10 odd years. And that's what we do. This second big building block is really changing the way, the landscape of how liquidity is added into the SME ecosystem. And my last sort of point on this is you mentioned that we launched iwoca Pay last year, which is a checkout for businesses that are issuing invoices to their customers. By the way, invoices is still the dominant way of how businesses are getting paid, as most of them would deal either in the B2B or would have invoices that are for higher amounts. And those are typically not dealt with card payments. And so the invoice checkout that we have built enables their customers to make an immediate digital bank transfer to 2 clicks, and that is based on open banking technology, or it would give them the option to split that payment into a number of installments. And we have developed that both for SMEs as well as for consumers as the ultimate buyers, which makes it really unique in the market. But if you think of it conceptually, it's really bang on the strategy of embedded finance, because we're embedding financing into every single invoice that our customers that are using this checkout product can offer their customers when buying services or goods from them. And that's, I think, it's going to be, is already, but is going to be one of the most exciting themes in SME lending. Probably fintech, but certainly in SME lending.
No, thanks. I mean, we are also very excited about iwoca Pay, and I'm sure it will be a huge success.
Already is, Vasile. Already
no,
is.
no, yes, but I think the success that we all expect this to go all the way up. I think as we know that a lot of our viewers are sort of other entrepreneurs, founders, and of course, by watching these type of videos, they're looking for advice or insight in terms of how the founders are scaling, building the teams, and of course, leaderships and team building is quite key tasks for the founders. So we just wanted to maybe to ask a few questions on the leadership side. So and talk about your team. So hiring is normally one of the biggest challenges. So finding the talent can be tough. Maybe with the current situation, maybe even harder. You managed to scale not just from 3 to 300, but also internationally. So what qualities do you look for in people who come to work for iwoca?
We're looking for, first of all, we're looking for people who are smart. And that sounds maybe a bit obvious, but smart can mean many things. It also depends a bit on the type of role, of course, but there's a smartness to every role, and that means that we like people who are asking questions, we like people who are curious, we like people who think first and then speak. So we have sort of a general smarts test. Then we're looking for people who are humble. We're not a sales-driven organization. We see ourselves as a tech organization, and we feel that there's a certain humbleness to a tech organization, and that goes very far in being a team player in thinking of the best possible solutions that we can apply, and there's a certain attitude toward it. We don't want people that are shiny or that are looking for a quick win, and that's an important characteristic that we're looking in people. We're looking for people that are passionate for something in life. Doesn't necessarily have to be at the starting point that they're totally passionate about everything that we do, but are just having a certain attitude to life that makes them wanting to do a good job, to be passionate about the quality of work that they deliver. We're passionate about generally the work that they do, and see a little bit more in work maybe than others would. And then finally, we want to hire people who have a growth mindset, who want to excel themselves, who want to progress in their careers. And I think all of these characteristics together, if I look at how we've gone over the last 12 months, is also giving us a certain resilience, that people have been really giving their everything in what's been an exceptionally challenging period for us as a company, as it was exceptionally challenging for our customers. So clearly we have felt a lot of the pain that they have been going through. But if I take these characteristics together, they really, I think, helped us to respond to the crisis in the way that we have done.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And coming to response to the crisis, we've noticed that you launched a mental health initiative to support SME owners, and wanted to understand what inspired this project. Are you doing this also for iwoca employees as well? So what are the results of it you've seen?
Mental health is, I think, something that is increasingly recognized as a really important issue, and I think it was first Prime Minister May who actually made this a government policy to support mental health. So really showing how important it is for us as a society, and in the business owner space, we've realized that there wasn't any program available where business owners would get support, and we felt business owners in particular are probably the most stressed people in the society, because there's just so much responsibility that lays on their shoulders, from managing all aspects of their business, sales, to financing, the operations, of course their staff, the responsibility for their staff, and of course their families. So we have done research in partnership with Mental Health UK, which showed that business owners were among the most affected by the pandemic from a mental health perspective. And so we partnered up with them to design a program which is really for them, to give them both information in a more digital perspective, but also goes further to give them actual either group or one-on-one support. And I think that's something we take very seriously, and have made one of our main priorities. On a team perspective, we've seen there was a lot of pressure over the last 12 months for, people were partially very stressed about work because the workload at times became excessive in some parts, mentally straining. And then of course, some more than others also found themselves quite anxious about the impact of the lockdowns and restrictions on their personal life. And so we've seen an increase in people who were looking for support. We have a people support team, which is about a handful of people that is only looking after the well-being of our staff, and we could see how much more in demand they were, and in some instances they weren't necessarily qualified to deal with all of the problems that some individuals might be facing. And what we've done for our staff, we integrated a mental health service provider into Slack. And so through that partner spill, any iwocan can, within 2 clicks, get a session with a trained mental health expert. And so we felt we wanted to reduce any form of friction that would be related to asking for mental health, because it's a bit like asking or getting a business loan. There's just so much friction that you end up not getting any financing. And I think it's the same for mental health. There's so much friction of getting actual professional support in, who would you ask? Because you already find it difficult to speak to your friends and family or colleagues about it eventually. So who then sort of do you ask? And it's just not trivial. And so we made it really trivial in getting access to professional support. And I think it has been very welcome in the team and helped us.
No, that's great, and we do like this type of initiatives. So Talis as well is doing a few of those with the.
Yes,
with the
you have really done a fantastic job by giving that support to founders and running workshops. I think you've been really standing out of the investor crowd in doing so. Thank you.
No, thank you. I think coming from this sort of building teams, growing teams, what we also try to give insights through these interviews is some sort of personal hacks. I don't know, the performance, some maybe routines that the successful founders are running. And so what we wanted to understand is, how does your typical morning routine starts or works, and how the working day look for you, and how do you ensure that you manage your time efficiently and successfully? Any hacks, tricks you can
Well,
share?
I'm quite lucky in sleeping quite well. So that's the first. I think sleep is incredibly important, and if you go regularly to bed at the same time and get up at the same time, I think that's, if you get enough sleep, that's giving you a lot of energy the next day. Or conversely, when I'm not doing that, my energy level is just dropping and my productivity is dropping. So I think the best kind of routine you can have, I think, is sleeping, and having that sort of routine, to give you that extra sort of punch. Living healthy, I think, is also quite good. I'm trying to. Could probably do better, but I think these two things, it's just keeping kind of me, alive. It's keeping me energized, and that's the first bit, for anyone who is sort of having a lot of stress, is to get that sort of corner bit right.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I think we also noticed that founders notoriously find it hard to switch off from work. So, can you, and how you sort of do you unwind, and have any other sort of ways of switching it off? I know you've been busy both on work, and you have a large family, so I'm just interested how you're coping with that.
Not well. um, switching off is just very difficult. The even when you switch off, you still think about the business. It's just really, really difficult to entirely switch off. The moments where I think you can really switch off is when you're somewhere on a sailing boat and have no network, and you just go on and look at the sea. That's sort of like what I remember, like the really true periods where I switched off. But I don't have great advice. Even when I go running and do stuff, I would think of anything related to the business. Very, very difficult. I'd be keen to get advice from other people on that, but I don't think I'm in a good position to give advice to anyone.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I think um, you're one of the rare startups where both co-founders, after 10 years, are together and running, and also growing from 3 to 300 and staying and managing. It's not that often. So we've seen a lot of times when teams have been sort of beefed up by COOs or C-level executives that have been running large businesses. Um, are there any secrets or insights you can share how you manage that, to stay as both founders together for that long, and actually growing together and keeping that culture in the business?
Yeah, it's a good point. And I do think we are a strong team. We're also very complementary to each other. I'm more the optimist, James more the pessimist. James is keeping everyone grounded at all times, and I think that worked quite well. Yeah, I think that's for us always been, I think, the secret. This very complementary way of looking at the world, while having a good foundations of values that we share. But I think both of us also continue to develop ourselves. Just we're not the same people anymore than we were 10 years, and both of us have been learning a tremendous amount and been growing with the business, and still do. And both of us are trying as good as we can. Yeah, I think that's
Thanks, Christoph. I think we're coming close to the end of the
And
interview.
then, sorry, I would add, it's a bit, and as in a relationship, it's not every day is rosy, and sometimes you need to stick together, even when times are testing. And I think that's that's what people who have been married for 73 years, like the Queen and Prince Philip,
Yeah, it's true.
would probably tell you the same. It's sort of 7 decades that I've been together, and I'm sure some of the years have been easier than others. But I think, there's also that it's a commitment you make to each other, and that sort of complementarity and on commitment and constantly sort of developing and growing. That's something that really continued to make us a good team.
That's great. I think we ran out of time. And again, Christoph, really appreciate your time. I know you've been super busy, but finding time to share sort of your views, insights on the business, really appreciate it.
You're welcome. And thank you for your support. And let's have a few more years.
Yeah, look forward to it. Thanks, Christoph. Speak soon.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.